Okay, we're back. Part 2 of the Frankly Fabulous Show. Gonna read some verse. News that stays news for everybody. Hot off the press. I'm just gonna read from my diary. This is gonna be my new thing. This will be the whole show. Why not? I already did the talking. Dwelling, meditating, pondering these same deep mysteries. April 19, from the roof to the floor. Why do our fashion aspirations resemble our parents' louche nerd chic circa the exact area we were conceived? Meaning a remedial absence of social criticism. My calendar came unplugged. My calendar's disconnected. See them run now. Here they come now. I see them running. They're jogging. Cellos, strings of guitars, guitars of strings. Seminary near beach line. This coast really opens up. Barracuda was a gift. Why did I skip it? Now it's 2 blocks away. And opportunities of futures lost. 6-room apartment over kettle of fish, which used to be Lion's Head. Centered Nexus, 7th Ave and Christopher. Village Cigar, Fat Cat, where my brother had his bachelor party. Duplex upstairs, cabaret. I went after rapping, a cooking show. I was camera B on. Sheridan Square, Cafe Society, Stonewall is a constant party. The roots of integration can be traced to this neighborhood, and these blocks, in this country. Christopher Street gaping open wide to the Brideside Silver River. There is a war being fought between the past and the future. New York City thinks it has to be brand new. It is learning to be an influencer city like LA or Dubai. What's good about New York City is the depth of age, the junk rag shop on Houston and Bowery or in Chelsea, stuff that outlasted, that nobody threw out, sunk in the landfill, and delinquent stabilized units, protected by midget rent. They stay old, they yellow while the new blocks gleam and erupt in destruction. Like the hive combs of energy harvested drone flesh, the smelly, incoherent, angry bum in front of the liquor store on Avenue A is holding it down, is the only accurate thing in the neighborhood. It's boring to harp on, and there is a network of long-term residences who held on to their some still affordable apartments, who were there before, who remember what it was like when cab drivers drove 70 miles per hour down 10th Street in snowball December. Cool dip through the pines. Another mile an hour by the Rhine. Hoagie Carmichael ghosts, tourist attractions, and gentrifying adversaries. Beware cynicism, or it's already too late. Creative means you know Adobe. That star cluster of intersections, the Indian wants the Bronx. They're reintroducing the Village Voice print edition. Maybe I'll get an office next door. Step in where the elders left off. Reading my diary in its entirety to strangers, amplified with portable rechargeable public announce system with wireless mics across the grass. James Baldwin, Harold Norris, Tennessee Williams, Gene Shepard, Marlon Brando, E. E. Cummings, Anatole Broyard, Jack Michelin, Bob Kaufman, Howard Hart, Taylor Mead, John Brent, Maxwell Bodenheim, Kenneth Patchen, Harry Kemp, Eugene O'Neill, The Iceman Cometh. These are the poets whose steps I fall into nightly in the canyons of endued Washington Square grass. And the wandering footpaths and trout streams of West Fourth, Waverly, Charles, Bleecker, Perry, Grove, Bank, Jane, Carmine, Barrow, Bedford, Downing, Minetta, a woods to get lost in. My Minotaur's residential labyrinth, one as fun to wander as to solve, to hope to live and never to leave. Souvenir corn maze I take made out of buildings for branches of ease, skylights, garrets, doors, and rooms to stairs where they sleep in half. Bird under the stage slept through the gig, while I hear gulls sculpt the horn, using the cut of the alley to find their way to Highway River. Laurie Anderson, Yoko Ono, Karen Finley, Carolee Schneeman, Hannah Weiner, Elaine May, Duana Barnes, Hetty Jones, Diane DePrima, Amiri Baraka, Frank O'Hara, Emma Goldman, Maya Deren, Aeneas Nin, Clay Woman, Amy Sedaris, Amy Poehler, 10 Days That Shook the World. Now communists can only afford this neighborhood in undergrad. Ayelet Pfaffs, Ramble Down Gay, Ferry to Governor's Island, White Horse Tavern, even the road pave looks North Face, golfy and financial. Get out of my city, suburban Chevy Tahoe, human ATM balance. I miss the ground floor of Dogecoin. I miss the second, third, and fourth floors as well. I distrust crypto. 65 viewers to my story, which is not bad considering I look at absolutely no one else's story. Saw Jerry Saltz on Hudson the other day. I thought he looked more commanding in person. It may have been someone else. Outside of La Bonniere. It's 1:02 a.m. I woke up at 7 enjoying the late nights. The side effects were about what was to be expected. A pretty routine and normal path and reaction to things. I'm sort of missing LA. New York City is full, which maybe we need outward release thrown in multivalent directions. I hear my computer thinking in the other room. It sounds like a clicking grind. Yard in Bushwick, house upstate. I like my friends and being pressed up against the wall by an overconstructed isthmus. Port of call, North River Bay. We only have the present tense, which keeps resetting its inception in blinding flashes. More fragmentary pieces, debris flurry, less sledding hill. Teachers I never thought I'd forget can no longer remember their names. Up with people, Jolt Cola. Inner tubes slid us down ice. Happiest days of my life. Among a fair tray of happiest days. Hors d'oeuvres of happy days. But never like her looking up at him in the park from a Tompkins Square clothes rack which she was selling. Macrobiotic Spice Cove turns, Cheswan. My seat is in an emergency kitchen. $4 an hour to wash dishes 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, no daylight, just dishwater, sucking the tan off your hands. But the street belongs to everyone after you get off work. 6 guys drinking tall boys sitting on crates near the hot food in the bodega. Saw her browsing at the Strand after class one night. It was like coming upon a fawn in a glen in the lush-covered forest. Park Slope was a sleepy port on the canal, emptied and intelligent, suburban, not very fun after dark. Chelsea rattles with the masts of still clattering mercantile clipper ship empires. Take me to a Yankee game, if you can. Jeter, A-Rod, Mariano, Rivera, and the Judge. Upcycled Metropole. Greenwich Ave is the fastest way home. Union Square is the waist, 14th Street a belt. Downtown is Manhattan's legs, upper torso the grid system. Its arms are bridges, its ankles tunnels. A body seeing in eyes of sideways prisms. Horizontal skyscrapers which are streets. Vertical roads which are buildings, femurs. Femur, tibia, Rockefeller, Seagram. The bones we live in are homes, businesses, and offices. Its chest is Central Park, its abdomen Midtown. Shoulders the Upper West and East Side. Morningside in Harlem is lobes of a brain. Washington Heights, forests, the beard and mustache. The village's genitalia, west maybe vaginal, east phallic. In perpendicular rigidities, Christopher Street, one station, a G-spot, is Tribeca and Anus, where we poop cars and trash out the Lincoln Tunnel, which is our colon. Brooklyn is a woman. It sleeps next to us in separate beds tonight. Brooklyn is a queen-size mattress. Manhattan is like sleeping in your car. I love my body. Big juicy pussy, New York City, as Dr. Eziaba Irobi used to say. Let's walk it like we've never seen. Tony Manero strut from Sheepshead Bay to Corlear's Hook. Corner of Thomas and Church where I saw Max Posner's play Judy with Will Dagger and Lydian Blossom. For April 21, tiptoeing down some asphalt shingles. Consumer spending has slowed. Song of the Outer Drone, 422. I weep masturbation, lava lamp, candle wax, pour vu. The hottest years of our lives. Bad Lieutenant. I want to write Bad Lieutenant on your body. Estimated delivery 4 to 8 business hours. Okay, I don't know. Is there more that I want to read? Fuck. Did I read this yet? I could do this. Okay. Memories of the Orchestra. How elixir the long pages, stages of my perceiving. The doors are not wide enough, they include us, but rather don't. The people, yes, husking corn across the state seal, climbed Mount Holyoke where you could see it from the governor/founder's house. Insert turn of phrase or figure of speech, written by everybody anonymously, unattributed folk currency of aphorism or common expression. Sameness and individuality, you have it everywhere. The crowd of differentiated variations. Duke Ellington playing piano at Nixon's birthday party, a suite in 8 parts. She isn't texting me back. Truth goes down with the day. I need 13-gallon bags, but can't stop listening to my sweeping pen, my straying horn straying over the range of funneling shortcuts from the interior grasslands to the shoreline. She responds with a fundraising request, slowest rebound in NBA history, Reggie Miller card waiting for the right bookmark. I set James Worthy on fire because I know it's the only potentially valuable card that came out of the pack. James Worthy wore sports goggles and played for the Lakers between dynasties. Pat Riley looking like the Gordon Gekko of basketball. It was supposed to rain, then it wasn't. I stayed inside for nothing, like Emily Dickinson, resting for the afterlife and eternity. Sticking her head into an oven, not texting me back. I telegraphed too much interest, shame on me. Date to the Yankee game on Sunday. She's driving. We have access to the Pepsi Lounge and Audi Club bars. Half an hour to the Bronx Bombers. I know nothing about the team currently other than the judge, and I think manager Aaron Boone. But being a Manhattanite now, feel it's only proper to root for them. I guess I said all this stuff already. I don't know. I guess I should talk. Should I talk? Maybe this will be a bonus episode. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the movie They All Laughed. I don't know, I've probably mentioned this a bunch of times. It's not going to be interesting to anybody but me, but I watched it again last night, and it's kind of an important... I guess I didn't really realize how important of a movie it was to me until I've watched it recently, coupled with my movie The Work of Three, which I made in college, in which is essentially lifts a lot of stuff from They All Laughed, just like directly. And I'm not really sure why. There's things about They All Laughed that, like, it's just kind of a mystery why it's such a watchable movie. Because there's things about it that are kind of stressful and hard to watch, and like the whole detective thing is kind of like, ugh, why are they... And, I mean, if you want to talk about toxic masculinity, I'm not really sure where They All Laughed registers on that, because the movie is basically about stalking. I mean, these guys spend the whole movie following these women around, and it's treated like it's just this cute, like, flirtatious, innocent, lovable kind of romantic thing, like they're fucking Pepe Le Pew or whatever, but it's like... they're following these women around. All around. That's what the whole movie's about, is them following the women around New York City, watching them. Oh, she's going over there. Oh, yeah. Like, that's... the world has changed. The plot of the movie, and one of the things that I would say is not really my style, but is worth considering, is the fact that it is sort of told through this genre lens to some degree, even though it's a very personal movie and you feel that, That's kind of like the texture. The plot and the mechanics of the movie are like they're detectives. They're private detectives, and they're being paid to follow these women. So the joke is the guy's husbands are paying them to follow the women, and they end up falling in love with the women, and real funny joke. I don't really need the genre thing, and to me, it doesn't really do anything in this movie. Like, I guess it justifies getting them out into the New York streets and having these great, they're almost like silent movie sequences where they're walking through Times Square or, the West Village, wherever it is. Like there's a lot of great, and that's one of the prime pleasures of this movie, I would say, is like you're really on the New York streets. Like you're in Midtown, you're on, is that 42nd Street, or you're in Times Square, you're by the Algonquin. The beginning of the movie starts on these helipads. It starts on the Brooklyn Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge coming into New York. But they go down to these helipads where right on, the edge of the island, so that because that's where Audrey Hepburn's landing or whatever. And it's unbelievable that Audrey Hepburn is in this fucking movie because, Audrey Hepburn is like one of the rare movie stars of all time, I would say, as far as like an icon goes. And she didn't do that much stuff after the 60s, really, But the first scene, you have all these scenes with the water in the background because they're right on this helipad, right on the edge of the island. And the movie photographs the edge of Manhattan so well. That area down around City Hall, they're down there a lot where their office is, and those, down kind of where you get the ferry to Governor's Island and shit. There's in the east side of downtown. But you really feel like the city's almost like below sea level or something. It feels like Atlantis. The movie kind of feels like an Atlantis thing because Bogdanovich said it was the happiest time of his life. And it's his favorite of his own movies. And, making it, I'm sure, was just unbelievably fun. He said they just kind of, they cut in camera and they kind of figured it out. Like, it sounds like a bunch of high schoolers making a movie in a way. Like, okay, we'll put it here and then you go there and then you go, and they just shot it on the street. They didn't close off any of the streets or anything. And he said the weather was great. It was like a spring and a summer in New York, and he's in love with Dorothy Stratton, and fucking everybody in this movie is in love with each other, and that's kind of what it's about. It's really about his personal life and all of Ben Gazzara's personal life. Like it's an autobiographical roman à clef, except it's told through this genre piece of detectives, which that's kind of Bogdanovich's style. He's kind of a Hollywood purist in that way, and he's doing a throwback, and a lot of his movies are like that. They're throwback to 30s Screwball, Paper Moon, and What's Up Doc. This movie's a lot like What's Up Doc in a way, where it's just like crazy people chasing each other, and it's a big gang of people. There's sort of a nerdy romantic lead with glasses. John Ritter, one of the pleasures of the movie is that John Ritter it's a great movie, really. It's really a beautiful movie. It's not just some Hollywood problem child or problem child 2 or whatever, and John Ritter is really a talented physical comedian, and he could have been, he's in that tradition of people like Jerry Lewis or the silent film clowns. John Ritter. He did it on TV. He did Three's Company, and it was kind of a TV version of physical comedy and his kind of graceful clumsiness. He's great at that. And so it's really cool to see him kind of be Bogdanovich's alter ego. And, it's so satisfying to see him sort of clowning amongst these great cityscapes. Like, it's Robbie Mueller cinematography, which, he had just shot The American Friend, and it was around the time he probably, a few years before he worked for Jarmusch. But, I mean, it's raw and it's real, but it also kind of has obviously a beauty and a, not like a, it's not really even like a fairy tale necessarily. Like, his style is kind of just like a composed naturalism to some extent. His lighting, and it's all location, it's all, you get the vibe he doesn't control that much or throw a bunch of outside light on it necessarily. But he photographed a lot of my favorite movies, all the Wim Wenders movies, a lot of the Jim Jarmusch movies, like a lot of movies that you're like, damn, this movie looks great. Fucking probably chances are Robbie Mueller shot it, Did he shoot To Live and Die in L.A.? He's done some major Hollywood shit too, but it's kind of interesting that he worked with Bogdanovich, because Bogdanovich is a little bit more of a studio guy and a Hollywood guy, even though he's got a European, like, he knows film backwards and forwards, and he programmed film at MoMA and shit, so, like, you can tell the movie is influenced by, like, New Wave, shooting on the streets, and it being this personal, kind of romantic carousel. And just doing it on the go, that's like a Godard thing in a lot of ways. I mean, this movie is very clean, I would say. It's not, there's no jump cuts or handheld or anything. All of the shots are like, it functions like a silent movie in certain ways, the way the shots link together. And that was, like, very influential if you watch my movie. So, one of the reasons why I want to talk about this movie is because, well, I don't even know if I can talk about it, honestly, because it's all about male gaze. The movie is just all about these guys who are just horn dogs, hounding it up all over Manhattan. And, like, it's kind of a celebration of that. It's kind of a Cassavetes. But once again, it's Bogdanovich, so it's super clean, and it's kind of screwball. And, but it's Ben Gazzara, so he was in Husbands, and he's like a Cassavetes kind of stock. And it has that kind of Husbands, like these guys. Blaine Novak, how great is that guy? The tableau of the characters, is like a Renoir. Just like the fact that it's like this gang of, of friends, and there's all these different storylines sort of intertwining is just so fun. And there's so much joie de vivre. In Manhattan, the way they kind of whirligig around the island in cabs and on roller skates. It's cool to see his compilation. And it's inspirational because with what I'm trying to do, a movie about a bunch of characters moving through Manhattan and all these relationships kind of moving in and out, and the art, the country music kind of comments on it, and all, how they photograph it. It's worth studying for that. But with my movie, I mean, the sense of humor and they all laughed is kind of cringe. I would say it's definitely old paradigm. It's kind of hard to believe that Ben Gazzara is able to pick up Audrey Hepburn because his lines are pretty whack. Puzzles. But I don't know. There's a romance and a kind of bravado that goes through the whole movie that I don't I don't know if it exists. And that New York certainly doesn't exist. You know, all these kind of low income, or I don't know, the array of the character. You know, Patty Hansen is a cab driver, and she's got this, you know, kind of cool life and shit, and it's like he's got this big loft apartment in Soho. It's like it's kind of a lost Manhattan. But there's no judgment. I mean, the guys are just kind of like, the plot of the movie is that, like, they fall in love with these women and they follow them around, like, stalking them, you know. So with my movie, you have, like, that girl watcher sequence. That's very much influenced, shall we say, by They All Laughed. Because it's all about this guy following these girls around on a date, and the kind of mechanics of how their bodies move through the frame, and the screen direction and the continuity, and setting up compositions, different environments. It's a montage. I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, it's about love, and like Bogdanovich says, the wars of love. And I think there is some truth to that, like the pain that guy has been through in particular. So the reason why I say it's like Atlantis, right, is because, like, he made this movie, like he said, it was the happiest time of his life. He's in love with the Playboy Playmate of the Year, who's in the movie. And it's kind of interesting how perceptive he is, because in the movie there's a bunch of scenes with John Ritter, like, stalking her in her brownstone. And I guess one of the things that inspired me to watch this movie was I'm walking down 12th Street, and the fucking location for the movie's on 12th Street. There's this little, like, outdoor lobby type plaza thing in this apartment building on West 12th Street in the West Village. And there's a little fountain that's like diamond shaped, in a stone bench. And if you watch the movie, it's obviously the same. And the first time I came to New York in 2009, you know, I've been watching this movie since 2006 or whatever. Like I said, it really influenced my fucking Work of Three movie in college. So, you know, when I came to New York and I was walking around, I saw this and I was like, oh, it's the fucking, that's where John Ritter slept, and They All Laughed. And if you look across the street, there's the brownstones. I mean, now it's unthinkable that those characters would live in that neighborhood. You know, that those apartments, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, I'm sure. You know, but the location and shit, you know, it's kind of interesting to stumble upon that. And every time I watch it, I'm like trying to figure out where every shot is and how they're traveling through the city. I wish there were more movies like that. You know, it's amazing considering how many movies are shot in New York, how few of them feel and look like New York. Even this fucking movie, when you're watching it, you're like, where is that? I wish I could see the fucking street sign so I knew, you know? And it's kind of a, you know, it's Midtown, it's Times Square, they go to F.A. Schwartz, they go to Algonquin Hotel. Like, it's kind of corny. It's not like, you know, if I were to make my version of it, it would be a different, you know, pics of the locations and stuff. And that's kind of one thing that I want to make a movie sort of like that, you know, using Manhattan. And on the streets, it's outdoors, you know, a lot of it. The detective thing kind of drives that. If it was just a bunch of guys stalking women, you know, it might not play the same way. But it's their job. It's kind of interesting the way that he is writing about I mean, it was literally all the people in the movie practically. Colleen Camp, and it's based on them. So it's like, it's a personal movie, and it is almost like an autobiographical recounting of what actually happened. But, so the scene with John Ritter where he's looking at Dorothy Stratton and her husband or whatever, and that's the only thing you see of this guy is just him yelling at her. It's like, that was pretty perceptive. I think they're smoking weed a lot in the movie. So I think Bogdanovich embraces weed, and you can see that in his process, because the movie is like very like self-aware, and like it's sort of about recognizing what's actually happening in a way that weed kind of like enables and helps. And so this may have happened in his life. He may have seen this and was high maybe, and he thought, okay, I'm going to put that in my movie. And then it was like a premonition, because like the dude killed her and killed himself, so like I don't know. It's terrible. Like, what a horrific. But I'm not sure that the world that, and the characters, the way they're behaving. I mean, Bogdanovich was a big-time Hollywood director. He hung out with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion. Like, he's dating Playmate of the Year. First of all, that's incredibly objectifying. And I think Dorothy Stratton was literally like 19. Something absurd. Like, he's 40. And like, I mean, I'm sure Bogdanovich was just a hound. He left his wife for Sybil Shepherd, and being in a position of power like that, like, the movie is full of great-looking people. That's kind of what it's about, in a way. It's just a bunch of like sexy people kind of intertwining and intersecting and going in and out of each other's lives, and it's really about that kind of rondelay of youth in Manhattan, and it's witty. It's trying to play into that Algonquin Round Table tradition. The dialogue is meant to be super witty and kind of New Yorker. Don Powell, it plays into those kind of traditions. With me, I'm trying to play into a little bit of a different tradition. But you could use the different strains in a similar way. You could use strains of poetry downtown, whether that be beat culture or bohemian culture in Greenwich Village, or poetry project in more contemporary, punk poetry. You could use those histories and those settings for a milieu. It's just about why not remove the genre part? Why not just make it, like, could Peter Bogdanovich have just made a movie that was about these characters falling in and out of love in a more direct way? Because it is, like I said, it is kind of pumped up as this screwball comedy. The dialogue is very stylized and punchy, and sort of, it sounds like movie dialogue. Really, it's like kind of witty, and it's all like Bogart macho kind of things. Could he have made I mean, you could use the same location, same actors. That's would it drive the script as well if it was just a personal movie, and like didn't have the genre I mean, not that the movie was a success. It wasn't, because the distributors pulled their support when Dorothy Stratton got murdered, and Bogdanovich tried to release it. He tried to self-distribute, and he lost $5 million of his own money. So, oh my God, I mean, that was probably a real dark time, you know. They weren't going to release the movie. I mean, it's not real commercial. It's kind of tinged with that. There is kind of a melancholy quality to it because of the awareness that Dorothy Stratton died in such a tragic way, and so soon after the movie came out. Like, it literally, you know, was within a year or two, I'd say. Like, I don't know if she made any other movies. So that kind of, I mean, plus the title, They All Laughed, it's past tense. Even within the movie, there's kind of a sense that the characters have to say goodbye. Ben Gazzara's got to say goodbye to Audrey Hepburn. And love ends. And there's a bittersweet. And this movie is just such a vibrant. It's hard to believe that the characters, you know, or the actors. I mean, John Ritter died. A lot of them are dead now. But because it is such a full of life movie, you know, it is hard to believe. It, you know, there's something dark about the way that happiness in Dorothy Stratton's life was just interrupted so soon after that. Like, the movie has this melancholy mortality awareness. What's the term? Memento mori kind of quality. Is that right? Let me Google it real fast. It's got a memento mori quality. Let's see what that means. There you go, yeah. Memento mori is an artistic or symbolic reminder of the inevitability of death. So, I mean, They All Laughed is only confirming what we all know, that we're just dancing skeletons, and we're going around in circles, and we are just kind of laughing until we die. We are just kind of motley, and we're all ghosts. Even though it seems like, oh my God, how tragic Dorothy Stratton died, but we're all going to die. And they had that moment, and it will live. Because it was like a match that they struck, you know. And it was kind of like a premonition of my later, you know, I would watch that movie in Columbus, Ohio, and part of what I loved about it was that it was a New York movie. You know, a lot of the movies I watched, I liked them just because they took place in New York. I mean, Woody Allen movies are like that. Tenenbaums, obviously. I would watch, I mean, Scorsese movies. I would be watching the movie almost as much just to, like, scan the landscape of New York and just see it as I was to, like, I mean, Fisher King, that's a New York movie. I just wanted to see New York, and movies are kind of an interesting way to experience a place. Even though, I don't know, it's weird. You can't, you do, okay, like, for instance, that fucking montage in Manhattan of all the New York, you know, it's got Yankee Stadium, and it's got Central Park, and it's got, and it's just cut to the Gershwin, like, that shapes your perception of what New York means and what it is from without. That was a big part of why I watched movies. I don't know. I wanted to live in New York, filmmaking seemed to go hand in hand with it, and it felt, I don't know, more glamorous and substantial to make movies in New York as opposed to L.A. Probably because theater and, I don't know, the density and the work and the actors that were here doing it, like, I wanted to be more a part of that, I would say. It's melded more to, like, literary world and, you know, highbrow bullshit here, I guess. So They All Laughed was, like, one of the best movies to just kind of hang out with and observe New York. It's all about the streetscape and, you know, all these different parts of town. Midtown, 57th Street, or is that 5th Avenue they're on when they're shopping? I'd read Gawker and shit because it was like a New York. So the movie served that purpose too, and like, now that I live here, it's interesting. I watch it every couple years to kind of like, it change, you know, because you recognize new stuff, and it does change your mental construction of what the movie is. To see like, oh my god, okay, that's where that is. Like, this was the first time I watched it, and I recognized that his loft is in Soho. It's pretty obvious because you see the World Trade Center, and it's like a loft. You know, like Scorsese and After Hours, all those fucking apartments are in Soho. Like, that City Limits place, crazy enough, that's like the country bar in the movie. I'm not sure if that was a real place or if that was just like a movie. But it's right across the street, I think on 7th Ave, from that fucking FedEx that I took a bunch of pictures of. There's a shot where they're coming, I'm not sure what that street that is, West 12th or something, I don't know. And they drive their car, and there's that fucking FedEx building, and there's City Limits. And it's like, look how cool the Village was. There was a big country music bar. Not anymore. And funky people like Blaine Novak with his big Sideshow Bob hair. Sunglasses. So it was like a fantasy of what New York would be like. And I'm still trying to live that fantasy. I don't know if that has any substance for anybody that hasn't seen that movie before, but, you know, New York, the story of New York might be the story of that movie. And Atlantis. Like, yeah, this was the greatest party of all time, but the candle went out. It always does. The city sunk. All the people died. But they had a great time while it lasted, didn't they? Gosh, is there anything else I need to talk about? Maybe I'll do a book of the day. Yeah, let's do this book of the day real fast. Book of the day is The Happy End / All Welcome by Monica de la Torre from Ugly Duckling Press. This book is like so unbelievably funny and smart. It's like, it's like kind of hard to believe because the joke is so low key, and maybe it's not even a joke, but it's all about like office furniture and kind of like office culture, but like kind of like aestheticizing that in like, I don't know, it's kind of like that David Byrne a few years ago. He had a stage thing where it was like all these pneumatic office chairs, and like it was all about kind of like, I don't know, mining the aesthetic of like modern office scape for like grace and beauty. And this has some element of that, I would say. and using that as sort of a metaphor system. This is the world a lot of the professional world lives in, and people function. In living offices, work points include jump spaces. Jump spaces are not landings. Landings are perch spots adjacent to meeting spaces and forums where human performers can interact. Neither workers nor the unemployed perch in jump spaces. Neither workers nor the unemployed tweet at perch spots. Neither workers nor the unemployed jump in landings. The unemployed may perch, tweet, and jump wherever they please. That's for damn sure. Amen to that. Repositionable furniture belongs in forums. Open discussions occurring at forums are focused. It's like test language almost, or like open, unfocused discussions do not take place in plazas. Plazas are welcoming public spaces at highly trafficked areas of the work environment. Parking lots are not plazas. Elevators are not plazas. Restrooms are not plazas. Water cooler areas are plazas. Plazas have amenities as points of attraction. Plazas invite individuals to mix, mingle, and shop. When humor performers shop, they are engaged in a recreational community building activity. Shopping is productive. Overproduction is not productive. So it's a collection of a lot of different human resources type language. Really, this kind of book and this kind of sustained metaphor, it's just such an elegant, interesting thing to explore. And it's not an obvious joke, and it's not fully a joke either. Like, there's comedy to it because it's kind of this the language of this psychic space is like computer therapeutic. It's almost like a spa, but like a bureaucratic, or like a Windows 98 spa or something. It's kind of vaporwave, I guess. It's very like late capitalism. It's about work and about the kind of like but it also has definitely beauty, and it's not cynical necessarily about that either. Like I would say it's probably like subversive, it's definitely like politically, taking to task this whole thing, but there's plays in it, there's little scenes with dialogue and stuff. Positions available. All are welcome. Anyone who wants to become an artist should contact us. Anyone who wants to be an artist, step forward. We can make use of everyone, each in their place. We have a place for everyone in their place. Anyone thinking of future belongs in our midst. Anyone thinking of their future, your place is with us. And we congratulate here and now those who have decided in our favor. If you decide to join us, we congratulate you here and now, the company. So you get hired, that's the first thing. I don't know, it's I feel like growing up, I didn't, know that things like this could exist. Like this, just kind of like, it's not so aggressive that it's like violently in your face and just totally butchering the whole ethos or, world of this. I don't know, it's kind of like finding like this tranquility and almost like a transcendent, but without necessarily like approving of it. It's almost like a gentle reprimand or rebuke, or counter manifesto or something, you know. I guess it's not really a manifesto, but alright, do 5 more minutes, do an even hour. Yeah, this is our little poetry lecture, plus I talked about They All Laugh Forever. Which I'm not really sure. I'm trying to make my life as much like that movie as possible, but what I heard was Cara Delevingne is Hollywood's biggest heartbreaker, which makes sense. She's a supermodel. So it's like, who's she? I saw there's a picture of Rihanna where Rihanna's even like kind of blushing or like crushing. You know, like Rihanna's pretty much. But to me, it's just an indication like men are just disgusting. They're out. Nobody wants to date men. But in the post-pandemic moment, I don't know. I'm having fun getting to know different people. I'm trying to meet new people. Like, I have my friend group from before, and I love them, and I want to be a part of their life. But I also want something new. You know, I don't want to go back totally to like, oh God, like this is the world I had in New York before. I just want to pick it up and reconstruct it. It's like, no, I want to meet new people. I want to engage in new ways in the city, obviously, and have new angles on it. I feel like I am. So it's not like I'm trying to avoid people I knew or anything, but like, I'm also eager to meet new people and like have a little bit of half and half. I just need I've been here long enough that it does feel like not new. You know, there's no novelty really. Like, even the things that I'm doing, I've kind of done a few times before. I've been doing them for a few years. And so, with the pandemic and the huge pause of that and just the kind of, like, reality check, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could have changed the course of your life. And a lot of people did. A lot of people moved home, or they changed cities, or they bought a fucking house in the country, or whatever, they broke up with somebody. For me to come back here, it does feel a little bit like, well, I could have gone to fucking the West Coast or something, I don't know, tried something different. I do feel like my work here it's not like it's not finished, it's just like this is the place where I want to work. You know, as an artist, as a person, I always just figured I'd live in New York, and you know, watching these movies and shit, like I was saying, growing up, They All Laughed and stuff, it was a way to prepare myself to, like, be a New Yorker in a dumbass way. And, I'm still kind of dumbly obsessed with that. There's a lot more to the world, but when you live in New York, it's easy to think that this is the only place that, like, matters. And before the pandemic, I definitely was feeling that kind of provincialism and, like, I mean, New York school and all of the art that was made here, you can sort of just, like, ignore. It is kind of its own genre or literature, and to some degree it is the most advanced because the smartest, most accomplished artists were here creating it. Their minds were working faster. They weren't beholden to the dumbass provincial cliches in the same way. So I don't mind living in that and being a citizen of that. Like, that's what I want. That's what I feel like my training has been in. The people that I really learned from over the past decade are all New York artists, pretty much. Definitely firsthand, pretty much, you know. like poetry project and everybody I've played with and seen play and blah blah blah, going to museums, going to galleries, whatever. It's all pretty much, it was focused on work that was made here, influenced by here, whatnot. So part of me's like, should I, I need some other thing. I need to travel the world. I need to live somewhere else. But I don't know. I do feel like I kind of figured out what I want, and I do know where I want to be, and it's here doing this, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of other things that would be interesting to do and sort of like fulfilling maybe, but like this is ultimately what I want, like my professional anchor in my home and my, my collaborators and my studio and my headquarters and everything, So, once again, we're just hashing out the fucking step by step back to reality. That's enough for now. Thank you for watching. It's the Frankly Fabulous Show. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. It's the best show on YouTube. The king of YouTube, Frankly Fabulous. The king of New York. Thank you. Good night. We'll upload this tomorrow. This was live on tape. I don't know. Is this even... This is writing. This is my writing. Signing out. FLF.